The corridors of the SS Daedalus hummed with the low, steady vibration of interstellar engines, a sound that could lull a seasoned crew into a trance. Yet in the mess hall, the atmosphere was tense. Whispers fluttered across tables, like the wings of nervous birds. The crew had never seen anyone like her before, and already they had decided she wouldn't last. "She won't survive," whispered Lieutenant Arik, barely audible over the clatter of trays. "No one lasts long on this route," muttered Navigator Quell, eyes darting toward the newcomer. And yet, sitting there at the center table, she moved with a calm that unsettled everyone. She unstrapped her harness, her uniform tailored perfectly to the curvature of her lithe form, and simply sat down to eat. Her hands, small, almost delicate, but precise, picked up the nutrient slab offered, inspecting it as though she could read its history with a glance. Her name was Lyra. At 22 standard cycles, she was younger than most of the senior crew members, but carried herself with an assurance that bordered on arrogance. Yet, her eyes told a different story. Deep violet orbs that seemed to hold the weight of galaxies in their depths. The first bite was deliberate. Chewing slowly, she made no move to hide her observation of those around her. Crew members stiffened under her gaze. Rumors of survival, or the lack thereof, had been whispered about newcomers before, but there was something different about her. Something that didn't fit into the neat, predictable patterns of the Daedalus. Chapter 1: Arrival. Lyra's arrival had been sudden. The Daedalus, returning from a minor survey mission on Sector 9 Delta, received a distress signal from a derelict transport vessel drifting near the asteroid belts of Vexus Minor. Standard protocol demanded a rescue if lives were at stake. The ship was found drifting silently, its engines dead, life support systems flickering in the faint red glow of emergency mode. Lyra was the only occupant, alone, conscious, and entirely unscathed. The ship's logs were corrupted, but they revealed one unnerving detail. The transport had been carrying a prototype of an experimental nutrient synthesis system capable of sustaining life indefinitely. That system, however, was destroyed, or so the logs suggested. By the time she was brought aboard the Daedalus, the whispers had already begun. Lyra had walked through the docking bay with an air that ignored protocol, yet commanded respect. She had not asked for help, had not requested a bed, and certainly hadn't begged for food. Instead, she had asked one question: "Where do I eat?" That single, simple question had set the crew on edge. Chapter 2: The First Days. Days on the Daedalus were regimented. Crew members had strict schedules: inspections, maintenance, navigation recalibrations. Lyra followed none of it. Instead, she ate when she wanted, slept when she wanted, and wandered the ship with a curiosity that bordered on reckless. Yet, she was never in danger. When an engineering bay malfunctioned due to a plasma surge, Lyra was the first to step inside. Other crew members had been ordered to evacuate, but she simply knelt near the console, studied the circuits, and adjusted a series of microresistors with a dexterity that made the senior engineers gasp. In minutes, the system hummed back to life, flawless and stable. "You're reckless," warned Chief Engineer Mora, arms crossed over her bulky exosuit. Lyra looked up, her violet eyes calm. "I am observant. Recklessness is subjective." By the end of the week, the whispers had shifted from doubt to grudging admiration. Still, there were those who feared her. Crewmen reported strange sightings, Lyra appearing in places before she could possibly have arrived, manipulating equipment with movements too precise to be human. The engineers joked that she might have been designed for survival rather than life, an observation that unsettled everyone who heard it. Chapter 3: The Threat. The Daedalus had been en route to Arinder Prime, a mining colony near the edge of the Helion expanse, when the attack came. A pirate raider, a massive vessel bristling with weapons and cloaked in ion-resistant armor, decloaked without warning. Alarm screamed through the corridors. The Deadless, built for exploration rather than combat, was at an immediate disadvantage. "Red alert!" bellowed Captain Solon. "All stations, prepare for evasive maneuvers. Shields at maximum." Lyra, who had been eating in the mess hall, calmly set her tray aside. She walked to the navigation deck, ignoring the chaos. "Do you know how to pilot this thing?" asked Quell, his hands hovering nervously over the console. "I observe. I learn. I act," she replied. And act she did. By watching the enemy's movement patterns, Lyra directed the Deadless through a series of near-impossible maneuvers. The pirate vessel's weapons missed by fractions of a second, over and over. Crew members shouted orders, but it was Lyra's instinctive adjustments that kept the ship alive. When the raider finally attempted a boarding maneuver, it was Lyra who met them in the corridors, alone, armed with nothing but a compact phase disruptor. The pirates were trained killers, yet the one human, or near-human, standing against them was a force beyond anything they had prepared for. In minutes, the invaders were incapacitated or fleeing, the Deadless untouched. The whispers turned into awe. Chapter 4. The Revelation. After the attack, Captain Solon demanded answers. "Who are you, Lyra?" he asked, his voice firm but tinged with curiosity. Lyra sat, finishing her meal before answering, as though her calm defiance were a statement itself. "I am an observer of life," she said finally, "designed to adapt, to survive. Your systems, your crew, your patterns, none are beyond my understanding. I do not break, I learn." There was a pause, heavy with implication. If she was designed, then by whom? And for what purpose? Mora, the chief engineer, leaned in, her curiosity outweighing her fear. "The nutrient system on the transport you came from," Mora began. "It was experimental. It was never intended to last. It was meant to select for adaptability. For survival under extreme conditions." Lyra nodded, as if confirming what they had all feared. She was not simply rescued. She had been tested. And she had survived. Chapter 5. Integration. Over the following weeks, Lyra became indispensable. Her ability to anticipate failures, her unmatched strategic thinking, and her calm in the face of danger transformed the Deadless into a vessel that could traverse even the most hostile sectors with minimal risk. Yet she never sought leadership. She ate, she slept, she wandered, and she acted when necessary. It was this combination, the ease of living paired with deadly efficiency, that unsettled the crew most. Whispers no longer spoke of doubt. They spoke of reverence. "She's not human," Arik admitted one night, speaking to Quell under the faint glow of the observation deck. "I don't even think she understands mortality the way we do." Quell shook his head. "Maybe she doesn't. But she survives, and that's all that matters." Chapter 6. The Final Test. As the Deadless approached Helion Rift, a region notorious for its gravitational anomalies and rogue energy surges, the crew faced what they feared most, an environmental hazard that no human or standard AI could navigate. "Even the ship's AI can't plot a safe course," said Quell, fear evident in his voice. Lyra merely ate her meal first. She chewed slowly, savoring each bite, as if defying fate itself. Then she stood. "Show me the readings." Within hours, Lyra had calculated a trajectory that defied conventional physics, twisting the ship through currents of raw energy, weaving between gravitational pulses with a grace that made the engineers dizzy. The ship emerged intact. You survived," Mora said, voice trembling. Lyra smiled faintly, the first real expression of amusement anyone had seen. Survival is habitual. And I eat when I am hungry. Chapter 7. Acceptance. By the time the Daedalus docked at Arinder Prime, the crew had stopped whispering altogether. Lyra had become an unspoken standard, the measure by which all others were judged. No one doubted her abilities, yet no one fully understood her. Captain Solon, once skeptical, watched her from the bridge as she wandered through the docking bay, her hands brushing lightly against railings as though learning their history. She won't survive, he had heard them say when she first boarded. Yet, she had not only survived, she had thrived, reshaping their understanding of what it meant to live, to adapt, to persist. Lyra paused at the edge of the bay, surveying the bustling port, and for the first time, she seemed to consider something beyond mere survival. A small smile touched her lips as she whispered to herself, "Perhaps there is more to taste than merely life." After months aboard the SS Daedalus, Lyra had proven herself untouchable in ways the crew could not fully comprehend. Yet, a quiet question lingered in her mind, a question she had never asked aloud. What is the purpose of survival if it is never tested? The Daedalus received an urgent transmission from the Council of Arinder Prime, requesting immediate assistance with a catastrophic event. A planet's core destabilization threatened an entire population. Traditional relief fleets would take months, but Lyra calculated that the Daedalus, with her guidance, could reach it in days. Captain Solon looked at her. "You've survived everything the universe has thrown at you, but this is beyond even our experience." Lyra smiled faintly, the calm violet eyes holding a spark no one could ignore. "Then it is exactly where I belong." Chapter 9. The Final Trial. Traveling through the starways, the Daedalus encountered gravity storms unlike any known charts could predict. The crew panicked, but Lyra remained composed. She spent hours analyzing energy fluctuations, adjusting thrusters, and recalibrating shields mid-flight. When the ship entered the planet's orbit, volcanic eruptions and seismic activity had already begun. Cities were crumbling. The planet's survival depended on precise timing. One miscalculation would mean total annihilation. Lyra guided the crew through the planet's unstable atmosphere, coordinating rescue operations from orbit while personally directing relief drones to the surface. Her strategies were unconventional. She deployed drones in counterintuitive patterns, using gravity anomalies to her advantage, and manually piloted critical equipment to stabilize collapsing structures. By the time the last civilians were evacuated, the planet's core had stabilized, barely. The Council hailed the Daedalus as a miracle. The crew, exhausted and awed, gathered around her. Captain Solon spoke for them all. "Lyra, you've not only survived, you've rewritten what survival means." Lyra looked at the burning horizon of the planet below, and then back at the crew. She had never sought recognition, yet for the first time, she felt something akin to pride. "I eat when I am hungry," she said softly, sitting down to finish the meal she had brought with her. "And I act when it is needed. That is enough." Chapter 10. Legacy. Months later, the Daedalus returned to routine exploration. Lyra's presence was no longer questioned. She had become an unspoken standard of efficiency, courage, and adaptability. Crew members no longer whispered about her survival. They studied her, learned from her, and in subtle ways, tried to emulate the quiet confidence that defined her. Lyra, however, remained untethered. She wandered the decks, observed the stars, and occasionally ate meals without a single concern for the past or the future. Survival was no longer a test. It was a natural state of being. One night, in the observation deck, a young crew member approached her. "Lyra, how do you do it?" How do you survive everything? Lyra looked out at a nebula swirling in colors no human eye had named. She took a slow bite of her meal. By sitting down to eat when the world expects you to run, she said. By choosing what matters. By learning that survival is not fear, it is understanding. The words echoed through the deck as the crew members stared in awe. Lyra had become more than human. She was a living testament to the universe's capacity for resilience, intelligence, and calm amidst chaos. And so, wherever the Deadless traveled, through hostile sectors, unknown systems, and deadly cosmic anomalies, Lyra lived on, a quiet force that refused to be broken. She ate when she was hungry, acted when necessary, and inspired generations of explorers without even trying. In the end, the whispers of "she won't survive" were not forgotten. They were transformed into legends. Legends of a girl who refused the limits of humanity, who sat down to eat while the universe trembled, and who survived every trial the stars could throw her way. The universe, it seemed, had met its equal, and she simply smiled and took another bite.